Hello everybody, this is Zero and welcome to Hearthstone. So in this episode I'm just going to talk about my actual deck and the philosophy behind how it's created. Now originally this isn't my own deck. I've tweaked a deck that I found online. I'll post a link to it in the description below. It was posted in November, and you know the game has changed since then through patches, but its primary gimmick or core combo, I guess you'd call it, was using Charge, perhaps an Inner Rage, and a Wind Fury Harpy on turn 6. Now you can see that Charge is actually a 3 cost now, so that combo that combo can't be done on turn 6, so it's not really the key combo I'd say in this deck anymore. It's more shifted over. I've tweaked it to make it go off of the Raging Warden. So by turn 6 or turn 5, if you still have the coin, you're looking to do an Raging Warden, Charge, and then Inner Rage for 18 damage on your opponent. So I'm just going to go through card by card, and if anything's kind of really been a major change from the deck that I tweaked this from, I'll discuss that. So anyway, we start off with 2 Inner Rages. They're very useful. Sometimes I might use them to remove a 1 health creature, but most of the time it's used to buff my own creatures. Execute is really good for taking down any sort of taunt walls or just troublesome minions. They combo very well. It's just a damaged minion, right? So they combos really well with Inner Rage, with Whirlwind, with the Cruel Taskmaster. That also deals 1 damage regardless. Yeah, or any sort of damage done by anybody. So Execute, I love this card. It allows me to take down a lot of scary minions or whatever with not a whole lot of effort, and I can focus more on the opponent, like the actual opponent player, which is kind of key in Rushdown, I find. Whirlwind, that's a lot of creature removal. It's also used to proc any of the enraged ones. Enraged minions like the Amani Berserker or the Raging Warden. It can also proc the Gurubashi Berserker. When I say proc, I mean activate its text. Fiery War Axe, that's either early removal, but I typically use it just to smack the opposing player, especially if I can early on. The original deck had 2. I had 1, or I dropped it down to 1 and switched it with a Gore Howl. I'll get into the specifics as to why when I reach there. Slam, it gives 2 damage to a minion if it survives draw a card. I find it really useful. I'll use it on a high health minion just to get some card draw. Sometimes I'll use it for removal, but I prefer to get the card draw. There's not too many other cards that give me draw. I think Shield Block is the only one that allows me to draw cards. Amani Berserker, it's a really good early game play. Sometimes an inexperienced player will leave this guy alone when he sees it early. Big mistake. He'll combo very well with Inner Rage or Cruel Taskmaster. For 7, boosting it to 7 damage. I can even get it up to 9. It'll be at 9-1. It'll die easily, but it'll do quite a bit of damage. And getting in that damage in early game has been key to a lot of my victories. Cruel Taskmaster, he can not only buff up an enraged creature, or any creature actually, but that could also be used for removal. Or even just getting 1 damage onto a creature, so I can use Execute and kill them. So really useful minion, and it's also a minion too, so I get something onto the board. I don't typically fight over board control. I don't have any taunts or anything to really lock down the board, so a lot of times I'm left just attempting to rush down the enemy player, and so most of my minions don't typically stick around. They go onto the board, do their damage, and I expect them to die. Anyway, Charge. This is a very key card in my deck. It used to be 0 cost and just give any friendly minion charge, but now they changed it to 3 cost and given it an additional +2 attack. So using that with a Raging Morgan and an Inner Rage, you'll see it gives +2, +4, and Charge, and Enrage will actually give it Wind Fury, which makes it attack twice, and another +1. So that gives it 8. It turns it into an 8/2. So 16 damage. If I have another Inner Rage, I can give it even more. Make it 10 damage. So do 20 damage potentially to the player. I don't typically use it to kill other minions. Anyway, Shield Block. I find it very useful. A lot of times I'm taking a lot of damage, so I not only heal up a little bit. Armor is basically health. I find it to be. So I not only get 5 health, quote unquote, back, but I also draw a card. It's pretty useful. Originally, the deck had at this cost they had a Flesh-Eating Ghoul, which I'll show right here. Flesh-Eating Ghoul. I decided to drop it just because, like I said, I don't typically fight over the board, and the implication means, you know, that you got to keep control of the board and killing all sorts of minions to get this guy to get more attack. And I don't focus on eliminating minions off the board. I focus on trying to get damage to the enemy player. So I decided to drop this and substitute with Shield Block. You're not dealing damage with that, but you're hopefully drawing that card, and you know you're delaying, yes, but hopefully you can stick around a little bit longer. Raging Morgan. I don't think this was in the original deck at all. I actually put it in when I traded out. Well, I'm sorry. No, it was Flesh-Eating Ghoul. That was I traded for a Raging Morgan, and I dropped a Warsong Commander for another Raging Morgan. Shield Block actually replaced. Nope, he's right here. The Acolyte of Pain. Whenever this minion takes damage, draw a card. I only have one of them. I could probably craft another one. I just figured maybe Shield Block would be a little bit better. That 1 damage isn't really going to affect the other player. You could potentially draw more cards out of the Acolyte of Pain, though. I just find that that probably won't happen. But you could pair it with a Whirlwind, actually. So there is some use. I just elected to go with Shield Block instead. Okay, so next card, Raging Morgan, I just talked about, but this is the linchpin of the entire deck. Generally, if I don't make this combo of Raging Morgan, Charge, Inner Rage, to do 16 damage, it's not an auto win, but it gives me very good chances. Usually when I pull off that combo, I've got a pretty good chance of winning, and if I don't, then I still have a chance, but I mean that's 16 damage, you know. So it's half of the work really to win the game. And if I'm not fighting over the board and locking down the board, I mean it's very difficult to make up. But there's also Wind Fury Harpy that can kind of substitute. But so yeah, usually the play is Raging Morgan, Charge, and Inner Rage. Warsong Commander used to have 2 in these, but I dropped down to 1. It's still useful, but before, for the same cost, any other minion could get Charge. And now it's just minions with 3 attack or less. So that's still useful for, say, Arathi Weaponsmith, the Raging Morgan. The Gorabashi Berserker is only 2, and that's its attack when it enters the battlefield as well. So after you can have it enter the battlefield, give it Charge, and then buff it to a higher attack as well. So it still has its uses, but it's not as useful as it once was. So I dropped down to 1. Arathi Weaponsmith. It's a little bit handy. You get a 3/3 out there, and you get a 2/2 weapon. So you know you get 2 swings with a 2 durability weapon, if you don't know what that means, and Yeah, it's a little bit useful. Not the best for cost, but considering my deck, I kept it. I might be able to do better, but I'll keep it for now. I like having weapons. Kor'kron Elite, typically used to break down a taunt wall because he has charge at 4. So, but sometimes it's used just to rush down the other player. Stormwind Knight, he's usually used to take out minions or just do enough damage to pull off and execute. It's not typically used to smack the enemy player. You know, buffing him doesn't result in too much compared to, say, Kor'kron Elite, who, you know, buff him once with Inner Rage, he'll have 6 attack. Buff this guy once with Inner Rage, he's at 4. My Inner Rages are better spent elsewhere too. Arcanite Reaper, that gives me 5 damage. Very useful to have. Typically I'm swinging at the other player with it, but if there's a really high cost taunt and I don't have executes, I might take a swing with that. Gurgabashi Berserker is really useful as well. You can charge it, and it's not an enrage mechanic, so just whenever he takes damage he gains +3 attack. So if I get him out onto the battlefield with charge, he's at 5, and he'll be at 10 if I Inner Rage him, because he'll get the +2 from Inner Rage, and then he took damage, so he'll get another +3, so he'll be 10 damage. So it's pretty powerful, but not the linchpin. Reckless Rocketeer, again, it's just to take out other minions on the board, usually clear down taunt walls. The Wind Fury Harpy, the advantage with her is I don't need to do damage to her to get her Wind Fury like I do with the Raging Worgen. So, as you saw in the first video, it was a late game final strike, but you can't really pull that off until turn 9. Turn 9 is a bit late. There could be like really big creatures out there with big taunts or whatever, so it's not always guaranteed to work, but it's another late game option that it can only be done in 2 cards instead of 3 with the Raging Worgen. And Gorehowl was thrown in there just to, I basically traded the potential for early game damage for late game damage. There was a few battles where I found myself really unable to do that last little bit of damage to the other player to win the game, and ended up losing actually. So having Gorehowl it's either some good removal or it can be just a final blow that, you know, they might think they're safe at 6 or 7 HP and with no taunt, and then all of a sudden I equip Gorehowl and smack them and win the game. So pretty useful, but and just give me some late game punch, and that's the big flaw of the deck. If I end up getting into a fight over the board, I'll usually burn out all my creatures, and I won't have any late game punch. There's no Boulder Fist Ogre. There's no there's no really strong end game units. I'm really focused on trying to win before, you know, turn 10. So if that doesn't happen, it doesn't mean I'm dead, but it turns into just a slugging match. And at least with Gorehowl, I get the option for some late game just punch. So yeah, that's my deck. Thanks for watching.